It is the Anfield Wrap. I am Neil Atkinson. After Nottingham Forest Football Club, who've admitted breaches of PSR rules, 0, Liverpool 1. It is a pleasure to be here. I've got Rob Gutmann, Beth, Lindop and Mike Kearney. We are in association with Green King, sponsored by Green King Sport all year, where football is indeed more than a game, though it is not an exercise in chaos theory. The league season is entering the business end, and Green King Sport venues are showing every single Liverpool fixture televised over the running, with more than 900 sports pubs across the UK. It doesn't matter where you're based, you can catch every minute of the action. It's best enjoyed always with other people, so if you're not being able to get into the ground, get in your WhatsApp, sort it out and get down to a local Green King Sports venue to catch the game. You can also get the app. There's competitions and discounts in amongst all of that. I've got Beth, I've got Rob and I've got Mike, and Rob, will start here. We got what we wanted. I love a fixtureless plan in June, and I only wanted one thing, which is that we kick off at Anfield in March against Manchester City, and for once we've got the whip hand, we've got it.
Yeah, we have. I mean, it's the things that dreams are made of, isn't it? I mean, I don't think in my wildest dreams...
It's my one... Well, I wanted it to be live when we went to their gaff. I wanted it to be live when we played Arsenal. I'd still be live, and I wanted it live now. That was what I wanted, and that's what we've got, and not just live, but we're in charge.
Yeah, and I thought about all that for a good part of the last 25 minutes of that game, when you think, my life in their hands, the rest of my weekend in their hands. I was exchanging messages with a mutual friend of ours who probably listened to this, Rob Burley, and he said, what was it like in the ground? Were you losing faith and hope? And I said, I was just thinking about the lovely Indian restaurant I'd booked. I was thinking about the drink. I disengaged from the football.
Had you switched off completely? Got into neutral?
I was watching it, but I wasn't. I was detaching. I was emotionally detaching, and then Darwin happened.
Present but not involved.
Present but not. Then I was dazed and confused when he scored. And I think I said it to you on a WhatsApp group. I just stood with my arms folded as I do now when goals go in. Sort of at best like Cantona when he scores that goal and he does a full circle with his hands on his hips. That's as emotional as I'll allow myself to get when the goals happened. I went home, checked the scores. We had actually won. Great news. Did a few little fist bumps to myself in the toilet of an Indian restaurant. But yeah, what a day. What a time to be alive. And yes, we have set it up for the big showdown. It's a shame Man City had to play this weekend because they were rather good. I watched them yesterday and they were rather good, and that's an awful shame. But never mind.
I mean, Manchester United Football Club were dreadful.
They were a disgrace to their shirts.
They've got really bad footballers when push comes to shove.
I think gutless would be flattering them. Flattering that performance, gutless. It was awful.
You've seen skeletons with more guts.
They were just so bad. It was just like you could see them on the counter at times going, just use a bit of physicality and look up and play the passing. Oh no, I think we'll go back. Best safe than sorry.
Discretion is the better part of valor.
It was just unbelievable. The fact that they scored that ridiculous goal by Rashford was the biggest act of misdirection in the history of a football match I've ever seen.
No, obviously, it was shit misdirection. I never bought it for a second.
Yeah, I know. You were right as it's transpired. Certainly by the individual himself. That was Jesus Christ. His was a special low in a career that's going backwards. Sorry, Marcus, but that wasn't good enough.
There we are then. Got stuck into everybody there, Beth. It isn't a decider next weekend. I am starting there, and we will work back. We will talk about the game where Nottingham Forest Football Club, who, as I say, at some point soon might have a points deduction for their own conduct. They got beat. Liverpool scored 1 goal and Nottingham Forest Football Club got 0 goals in there as the game sort of wore on, but it's fine because they've got 33 players, some of which they shouldn't have bought, and the rules demonstrate that. It isn't a decider, Beth, because not least because there is a third party, but it could prove decisive next weekend. It is what we wanted. It is really just what we wanted.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, in seasons gone by, certainly going back to that 18-19 season, you've got City at the Etihad in January, and that's perhaps the turning point of that title race. Liverpool ultimately go on and lose out by a point. So for them to be playing at Anfield with this Liverpool team, with the run that they're on, the momentum that they have in spite of all of their injuries, for them to have to come to our place and win it, really, because as you say, we've got the upper hand. Certainly they can't lose that game. It is huge. You look at the previous record at Anfield, I don't think they've won there in the Premier League with fans in the ground since 2003, and that's no coincidence. That is, for all people sort of deride the Anfield atmosphere and the power that plays, you know, I think in games like that, it can be hugely decisive. You only have to go back to that Champions League game where Liverpool were massive underdogs and they absolutely tear Manchester City apart in that first half. So I think if Anfield creates an atmosphere that's half as raucous as that, then City will be in for a tough afternoon. But as Rob said, they are a phenomenal football inside. Whatever you think about what's going on off the pitch and whatever caveats come with their success, they are, at this moment in time, probably still the best football team in the world in terms of their ability to control games. You know, there was Manchester United, as we've said, were just absolutely diabolical, weren't they? It's probably one of the most one-sided derby performances that I've ever seen.
And you've seen matches involving Everton and Liverpool.
Well, exactly. After sort of the first 20 minutes, they carried virtually no threat whatsoever, did they, yesterday? But Manchester City is so good at penning sides in and just, you know, wave after wave after wave of pressure. But yeah, I think it's huge. And I think when you look at the fixtures that Manchester City have after Liverpool in the Premier League, they've got Arsenal, they've got Aston Villa, obviously both after the international break, but it just plants a tiny seed of doubt in their head if they do slip up at Anfield, that they can't afford to slip up again, and that will work in Liverpool's favour.
We're not quite in the nick we'd want to be in, Mike. Salah doesn't play a part at the weekend. Nunez looked unbelievably lively, like he's never been away, and obviously gets the winner there. Szoboszlai, though, looked very, very rusty. And then there's another whole set of footballers, including our first-choice goalkeeper, including our vice-captain, that you could go through that we do not have available for the fixture. So it's worth saying it's what we wanted. It's got what we wanted on the line, but we're not in the best possible nick.
No, not at all. And the last really 12, 14 days, we've just been, let's just see how we get on. And we've done pretty well. It's the thing, it's this mad belief that, like, you go back to August, but you can even, you look at Robertson and Van Dijk, who start the game at the weekend, and you go back to, Villa in 1920. Robertson's whipping the ball in for the winner, scores one, gets us back level there. Things like that, when they happen to players, they just... It ingrains in them, and you think, well, no matter what situation we're in, if we've still got a chance, we're alive. And if we're still alive, we'll just keep believing, and then we'll just do it again. And it's phenomenal, really, how, you know, even though this squad is threadbare, you go back a week to the cup final, you throw in, you bring in Jadon Sands and James McConnell on for Gakpo and McAllister late. And it's like, well, that's two of our really recognised players coming off, and two of our not so recognised players coming on. Mm-hmm. Still won, because there's just this utter belief in getting each other through. Van Dijk stepped up and was amazing. I thought he was incredible again. Saturday there was a chance we'll probably talk about later, more in depth about chances. But Gibbs White goes through pretty much right at the end, and Van Dijk just goes, well, I've done this before. I'll back off, and I'll defend this well. And things where you've got that happening in front of you, it just gives everyone else around you the belief.
Yeah,
that's all it is, essentially. It's the belief. You know, Nunez comes off the bench against Newcastle, gets two. Robertson gets one against Wolves. There's plenty in this season. Elliott gets one at Palace, which at times where, as the Rob was saying, he was feeling it in the ground. I was feeling it watching it. I was thinking, I just don't want it to end here. But here we are, potentially on the what people will in the media describe as the downfall, and they don't let it happen because they don't stop believing. Bit of a journey title there, but you know what I mean. That was purely accidental, but they just go for it.
They don't stop believing, Rob. So let's get on and talk about the game. There's another game we will need to discuss, which is the one coming up against Sparta Prague. But before then, we will do Nottingham Forest Football Club, who, by the way, no one made them buy John Joe Shelvey last season. No one made them have to do it. They chose to buy John Joe Shelvey in amongst a lot of other footballers, but John Joe Shelvey was a choice for them. It wasn't an inevitable.
Where's John Joe now?
He's in Turkey. They got 0 goals. Nottingham Forest Football Club. John Joe Shelvey's Nottingham Forest, as I like to think of them. They got 0 goals and Liverpool got 1. I mean, you mentioned about the late winners. They've never been later from a Liverpool point of view, Rob, or more explosive. And I think it is the belief. I think that there's still a lot of footballers there who actively do believe. It's not a ricochet. It's not even a hopeful ball that Nunez himself just makes something out of. He does have a lot to do. But McAllister believes, and I think McAllister's whole performance will I think is a fascinating one, because to me, he played like a World Cup winner. He played like a winner. It's in there with Van Dijk as well. It's in there with Konate. It is obviously Darwin's goal, and it's a gorgeous, gorgeous header. And Darwin's now scored Liverpool's 3 biggest goals of the season. Cometh the hour, cometh the Nunez.
Yeah, the more I reflected on it afterwards, in the moment of a last-minute winner, you think, God is smiling on you, that it is an act of fate, an act of fortune. But the more you reflect on it, you think, and having watched it back and reaffirming what I felt I saw, despite dreaming of the Indian restaurant, what I actually saw with my eyes was a team building pressure and building momentum. It can be distorted by the fact that Forest have a breakaway or two, but I remember watching Liverpool sides in some of the wilderness, more barren years, and you know you need a goal in the last 5 or 6. And then the opposition would get the ball. And you go, for fuck's sake, now they've got it. And now they've gone up the other end. Oh, look, now they've got a corner. And we're spending the last maybe 4 or 5 minutes added on without the ball. There was no, with this Liverpool...
It's the same fixture last year where they win 1-0.
Well, that's true. But I would say for 95% of the Klopp era, whenever I've seen us in these situations, we've not always prevailed, but I've always had a sense that we will create that last chance, that we will create something which will make us go, oh, good God. I thought all that would deny us was the clock. But what it means is if we're not going to score in the next 2 minutes, we would have scored in the next 3 or 4. So whether you allow yourself to believe life can get as good as it actually did get, the goal is not a fluke. It's not an act of mad chance. But yes, you're right. It's a question of belief, but it's also a question of just all being very, very good. You said the seconds before, Tsimikas blams one. It's just a really, really good shot. McAllister shows so much quality, but I actually went and watching back. I specifically watched back the last 10 minutes to confirm several issues in my mind. McAllister's trying that little dink a couple of times before, by the way. McAllister is one hell of a little dinker, quite frankly. I mean, he likes that ball. We haven't had that kind of pass from a midfielder, I think, in the Klopp golden era, because it's not a Henderson pass, that. It's not a Fabinho or even a Wijnaldum pass. Probably Coutinho was the last sort of midfielder we had who would try that deft little, or a chip of sorts over the top.
used to do the dink down the middle of the pitch, didn't he? Not like wide into the box.
No, but it requires a lot of backspin to get that right. A lot of precision and backspin and getting that ball up and down and enable it to hang in a place where you turn an entire defence around. That's really, really hard to do.
He's only got a split second, he has a
look, though. He has a look.
But
he does.
The look's tiny, though, isn't it? It's a quick look, and that look is dependent on Núñez seeing the look or trusting the man on the ball and going, well, I'll just hold me run and I'll make it now. And then it doesn't even happen if Endo doesn't win the ball back. It's just it's a string of perfect things that just happen because going back to the belief, but because of the ability they've got as well. They've go, well, I'm going to do that. I'm going to make this run because McAllister's going to just hang that up there for me. And if he doesn't, that's on him. And he's had a look and he's gone, well, I'm going to make this ball now because Núñez is making that run. Just in a split second, that's the level of football that we all take for granted, I think, because sometimes you go and watch football and think, yeah, I could do that. No chance I could have done that.
I think people take the big win, the Darwin, his ability in the air for granted a bit, just because he's a unit.
And then he scores just an even better header, really, which is mad because it's a brilliant header. But the goalie makes a great save from a Tsimikas corner 4 minutes before.
It's a brilliant flick. It hits a defender, but it is astonishing as well. He's really, really good in the air. I mean, of the things he misses that people focus on far too much, it doesn't tend to be the headers, actually. He doesn't actually get many clear-cut chances. I think he's hit the woodwork once this season with one maybe he should have buried, but a few games ago. But if you did a compendium of his headed goals for Liverpool, they all require an exceptional level of technique, and that did too.
It's time to argue, Beth, with him to expunge the Luton miss. And what I mean by that is you're now in credit for this stuff. It's now absolutely boxed off. I'll say it again. They are the 3 biggest goals of the season. I think Newcastle is the moment where, whether or not they believed, I think we then all thought, hang on, those who hadn't joined the party yet thought, hang on, there's definitely something in this season. They're capable of an awful lot. That one is the one that sets up the big one next weekend. It's a glorious, glorious moment, and more than anything, I wish he had dispatched against Luton because there'd be 2 more points on the board. But it's testament to the player he's become. He changes the game when he comes on. As, to be fair, does Ioniwi. I think he's excellent when he comes on as well, and the two of them changed the shape of the game massively. But from our point of view, Núñez changed it so much.
Yeah, and I think, as you say, that Newcastle win, I mean, it was early in the season. Was it third game of the season or something like that? It was so early on, but I think so much hinged on that that moment, because we'd obviously drawn away at Chelsea, and you sort of felt if we didn't win that game, then maybe it'd be another season of trying to get back into the top four. And I think that was, as you say, that the win that really sort of consolidated, okay, this team could do something special this season. And again, that goal for Núñez has completely changed the landscape of this week. Had Liverpool not won that game, and they were going into next Sunday, particularly off the back of City's performance and win yesterday, we would have all felt very different. There would have been, obviously there's huge pressure on next Sunday, but there would have felt an even greater expectation and pressure going into that. And just going back to what Rob said about it not being a fluke, because I've seen some, people on social media, mainly Arsenal fans, saying that, it's not sustainable to keep...
Everyone's lost their mind, by the way, Beth. I mean, we've got to, whenever you talk about anyone else right now, we've got to caveat it with everyone's lost their minds.
But saying it's not sustainable to keep winning games late on, despite the fact Liverpool has won the last few Premier League games by a good few goal margin. But anyway, but that goal on Saturday was...
It's mad how Arsenal supporters have decided they're experts in Premier League run-ins. It's come from fucking nowhere.
Especially considering how many last-minute winners did they get in the first half of the season. But that goal that Núñez scores on Saturday, that's the 44th goal that's been scored beyond the 90th minute for Liverpool in the Premier League. That's 12 more that Liverpool have than any other side, and 18 90-plus minute winners have been scored during Klopp's tenure as well. So that's not just pure chance, that's not luck, that's making your own luck, that's perseverance, that's resilience.
How many more than Everton? I mean, we don't know. I'm not expecting you to know.
It's an infinite number, quite possibly. And as well, another stat that I saw earlier on was that in all competitions this season, substitutes for Liverpool have combined to contribute towards 43 goals.
Wow,
that's wild, isn't it? Yeah.
So 21 goals, 22 assists, most of any side in Europe's top 5 leagues. And again, that just shows you what these players coming off the bench, how much of a squad game this has been for Liverpool this season.
As part of being a squad game, and I will again mention Nottingham Forest in a slightly warm way, because it was a game of football and they played their part. Iwan Iwi, as I say, I thought he changed the shape of the game as well as Núñez did. It's almost a game of 60 minutes and then 50 minutes, Rob. And I'd argue Liverpool shade both parts. Yes, Forest do get the 1v1. I think it was offside and would have been given offside. The best chance of the game is the Diaz one that Murillo blocks. Murillo does, really, really well. And that's an example of Forest defending manfully. Like, I can understand why Forest feel like they've had really hard lines. This is different to the refereeing controversy. We'll go on to that in a minute or two. I can understand why if you're Forest you feel like, Christ, last minute winner against United, last minute winner here against Liverpool, a little bit of refereeing controversy around the United one. I don't want to do the Liverpool bit yet. They do defend manfully, and the game is alive in all phases, is what I would say. That was one of the things about the match for me. It's why I hadn't given up hope. In fact, I think the only moment when I really give up hope is perhaps in the split second after Shimaka's shot's blocked, because it's only then that I begin to think this game, or maybe it is just going to peter out, because it just felt alive all the way through, I thought, for both sides.
Yeah, There's a few things that I felt as you sort of watched the game unfold, and you had to remind yourself of the context. I think Forest are, although their league position doesn't reflect it, better than most of the sides around them. They certainly have got more in their armoury. Alanga was a threat to us. In fact, he has their best chance. That left foot, side 100%. Foot just whistles past the post in the second half.
That's when the game's in the next phase.
Iwanui, I mispronounced his name. Apologies to him and his family. And Gibbs White, they've got plenty in their armour. They've got pace and power on the attack, and I thought they were a handful. And you had to remember that this was a Liverpool team shorn of quality starters, 7 or 8 first team starters you'd hope would have played if you looked at the side at the beginning of the season. So it was always going to be a much more even contest, just as Brentford had to be a more even contest, just as Bournemouth had to be as Luton had to be a more even contest. It was always going to be a game I felt we may have to win this in the last 20. It's going to be hard, it's going to be tough. We probably have to do something from the bench, and I think we're going to be saying this for a while longer. I don't think there's any flies on us, or we have to sort of be in any way sort of explain away that it took us a 99th minute winner to beat Nottingham Forest. It was always going to be tough, and we have nothing to be ashamed of.
We will have to move along and get stuck into the controversy that's led to bringing to Mark Clattenburg, bringing the good name of Gladiators into disrepute. I think he really needs to take some time and contemplate that. Maybe a good long look at the mirror might be in order for Mark Clattenburg. He is one of this country's top referees, following in the footsteps of the wonderful John Anderson. He needs to think about whether or not he's doing the right thing or the wrong thing at this point in time. It has been stoked, Beth, by all corners. I've been surprised. I don't think that Match of the Day on the BBC needs to particularly engage in a race to the bottom for clicks, even the way that was set up. I tell you what, Jermaine's angry. You know what I mean? Like, genuinely, like, I was just, for me, just wild. I mean, it's the equivalent of giving a throw the wrong way. Over 90 seconds of football passes. There's points where Forest are completely engaged in the game. It is not a hotly disputed last kick of the game penalty. I've just found it unbelievable. I've almost felt like I'm in another world with it, really, and it just managed to rumble on and rumble on and rumble on, and I'm almost loath in one way to make fun of it and discuss it here, because I feel like you are adding to it, and so you always end up feeling a little bit compromised in a way. But fucking hell, just shut up.
Yeah, I think football, and the Premier League in particular, has a little bit of a crisis on its hands at the minute, because there's been so much scrutiny of the standard of officiating in the league over the past couple of years, so many contentious decisions, that it feels like every club now has almost like a bit of a way out, has a scapegoat, and that is the referee. And, you could argue that Liverpool have been complicit in that, in terms of, they released that pretty strongly worded statement after the Tottenham debacle back in September. But in that incident, that was a completely unprecedented event. Never before in the Premier League has a goal been scored, ruled out, and then not overturned, with two fellas sat in a room overturning it.
An admin error.
Yeah, so that is never. The only thing remotely comparable to that is the Sheffield United goal that doesn't get given, which goes over the line against Aston Villa a couple of years back. That's the only thing that's in the same stratosphere as what happened. And I think in situations like that, clubs have, that their frustration is completely warranted, and they are more within the rights to come out and dispute what's gone on. But as you say, if we're going to start going back to every slight... I mean, Mike Dean yesterday was on Sky Sports saying it was a monumental error. It was an error. Oh, there's dozens of errors made by referees.
Mark Clattenburg stuck up a lot for Mike Dean publicly. Anyway, just one fella. That's just one man's view.
If you did a league table of errors, right? If you said to me, okay, it's an error, but let's get some context. Let's start with the most egregious error of the season, the one done on Diaz. Let's work our way down. I think you're getting 4 or 5 figures in terms of numbers. Where this error is. I'll give them it's an error. Give them the error. Nobody should argue about the error. But how does it rank? How did it affect the cause and effect of the error?
Yeah, it's on the same par as giving a corner that's not a corner, or giving a throw in the wrong way. And in spite of that, feel aggrieved if you want, but there's nearly 2 minutes between that
and
happening.
100 yards of pitch.
Yeah, and there's multiple times in that spell where Forest get the ball back, where they lose possession, where the ball goes out of play.
They get a throw in, don't they, in between times?
They have ample opportunity to clear it. And for that reason, not to mention as well that Liverpool should have had a free kick, because the fella nearly tried to take Konaté's head off in the penalty area. But regardless of all of that, it all just feels a little bit manufactured and a bit disingenuous. And I think, it is an easy win for a lot of media outlets, because there is a lot of anti-Liverpool sentiment within certain rival fan bases, and this sort of plays into that, doesn't it?
I think a big marker on it, Robbie, is this idea of, there's to go back to one of the eternal driving forces, and I'll always say it is different if it's us, it's different if it's Man United, because there's a limited number of reasons why people watch and engage with football matches. One is their teams playing, one is it's a big game at the top, one is it's a big game at the bottom, and the other one is it's Liverpool or Manchester United, either positively or negatively. Let's remember that, like, nobody draws clicks like Liverpool or Manchester United. We've already took the piss out of Manchester United Football Club on this show. We don't need to, but the reason why we do so is because Manchester United
we enjoy it.
We enjoy it. Manchester United Football Club are Manchester United Football Club, in the same way Liverpool are Liverpool. And I am aware of that. But I've just found it's like a maelstrom of absolute bullshit that everyone's decided they're going to have a big fucking slice of.
Yeah, it shocked me, as I think we're all sort of, we can't repeat, we're genuinely shocked by the outrage, and it just makes you wonder. I think you're thinking about how Liverpool and Man U are in everybody's consciousness and heads is right. I think in a flattering sense,
It is flattering.
It is. It's flattering
because that's it's like Man United wear clown shoes, so that's why they're in everyone's consciousness. Yeah. But with us, it is about this idea of that people do not like to see Liverpool. A lot of supporters, not a lot do, by the way. I think if you were to poll in inverted commas the neutral, it wouldn't surprise me, given everything going on with Klopp, if the neutral would be split in terms of whether or not they want us to win the league out of the three sides. I genuinely think we need to be clear about this. I actually think we do better in that than we maybe perceive it. The problem that you've got is the noisy opposition to that who will not leave it alone and will take any opportunity to have a go in the most basic way at the Scousers because they're fucking morons.
Well, there is all that. I think it's because it's an exciting title race. So I think everyone's invested in it. I think it's one the whole Premier League can join in a bit. I think when it's just Liverpool and City flying into the sunset or City running away with it, it's what the fuck. I think more of the neutrals are watching this title race and keeping an eye on it than they might be.
Yeah.
I do think the bottom line, I think what stokes the fume, though, is Nottingham Forest have this mad histrionic reaction. The whole not just...
The owner ends up on the pitch.
The owner... Massive Ange. He goes mental, doesn't he?
To be fair, though, Clattenburg did tell him to go on his first whistle. So
oh, very good.
Excellent.
I think because they've worked themselves up into this lather about injustice against them this season, to the extent that they've taken this unprecedented step of appointing their in-house resort to authority figure, Clattenburg, just to make the Clatster, just to make them feel. I mean, we can laugh about how ridiculous it is, what a puerile bullshit idea it is, but on an insidious level, it is designed. I'm not sure there's this much thought in it, but I wonder to put pressure on, because after the commentary broadly will go, after a game, a manager will complain about the decisions his team has had, and everyone will go, yeah, and he might get fined or whatever. But I think maybe at Forest they've gone back, but what if we had somebody complaining who knew his onions to back up the manager's beef?
Who's got people's phone numbers?
Yeah. Someone could back up the manager's beef. So, the manager's beefing. Klatz says he's got good cause to, and the way Klatz worded it was so funny. I mean, it's just it was real, like, Goebbels stuff, like propaganda. It was bullshit of the highest order. Well, and again, of course, he had picked up the phone to Mike Dean in between time and gone, "Can you back us up here, pal?"
Any hopes, lad?
But it, all messing aside, what does it look like next time a ref's on the spot in the middle of the pitch and it's a Forest game? They're playing the Blues. There's a penalty decision. We need Everton beaten. That kind of pressure could come to hurt us, Neil. It's not funny.
It's not funny.
It's not funny.
It's not funny, and it's not fair to bring Everton into this.
No.
Everton, though, have also been charged with breaking PSR regulations, just like Nottingham Forest Football Club.
A lot of it about.
There is a lot of it about it. It's not like people didn't know the rules. Absolutely nobody obliged them to buy 16 goalkeepers, and yet here we find ourselves moving it along. The funny thing about them, Mike, is I think they play well. I think that they strike me as the funny side in that I feel like they're simultaneously, they've got good players, they've got better players than the league position suggests, but they managed to also at once be less than the sum of their parts. I feel like both Cooper and Nuno have sort of struggled, and listen, this isn't just in the context, I've seen them a few times this season, not just in the context of the game against us, but against us you're able to come away and go, Murillo, good player in there, Ryan Yates, God, he was prominent in the game, I thought he plays ever so well, Elanga, he's dangerous, you keep going on, Inibi comes on, changes it, looks the part, I like Hudson-Odoi, he's clearly a class footballer, Gibbs White, a good, I can end up giving sort of 7 or 8 of theirs, the equivalent of like 7 or 8 out of 10, and yet we were the better side in all phases. It is a 1-0 game. And I just think they're a funny team, and I actually think that's part of, as odd as it might sound, part of what sort of lit this fire is that everyone sort of knows Forest are a bit better than this.
Yeah, I think Cooper settled on this thing that last season of I just need to get my best players in this position on the pitch, and like the old Shankly thing of we need 7 people to carry the piano and 4 to play it. Well, that's essentially what he's done, and they've sort of gone that far that way now, where like there's no balance.
Yeah.
So it's just like we're all over the place, but just give the ball to Gibbs White, to Elanga, to Owoni. Even Wood scored a hat-trick this season, didn't he, against Newcastle?
Yeah.
Just wild stuff, just throwing. Yeah. They're a mad side. They're a good side, but they're not good often enough in games, which is why you can say we end up shading it. I purposely went back and watched the extended highlights on the Nottingham Forest YouTube channel this morning.
Oh yeah.
And I, even then, when they're trying to show them at their absolute best and us not at the best, maybe they were very, very fair to us. Like, we have more chances than them. There's a couple where I'm like, Gakpo should pull it across maybe to Nunes. Nunes should also pull it across at one chance. And there's tap-ins, and we're not talking about this as contentious because we're just tapping the ball into an empty net, because we're a better football team than them. And we shaded them all over the place, and they had the chances. Look at Langer. If I'm missing a Langer's chance, I'm going to bed that night thinking, I've done everything right there. I've gone back across the goal, so the goalkeeper's weight's going against him. I've just put it wide.
It's not an easy chance, I don't think. I think he takes it nicely. He makes it look a better chance.
He's seen it all the way, isn't he? And then he's going. I think as I said, I think he's done the right thing going across the goal. Just missed.
It's one of those misses, that one, which I think, and this is obviously not true, so don't be a bell end. But I almost feel like it should count as a shot on target.
Yeah,
if you know what I mean. He's put it in such a way that if it's just the same distance the other side, the keeper can't get anywhere near it. But if he just hits it, there's a way that's a shot on the on target, and Kelleher just catches it. If you see what I mean, like, there's ways.
I don't like shot on target.
No, I don't like shot on target.
I think it's meaningless. I think the stat should be threatening shot, and now we have XG. I think that. We can make that almost empirical because it's virtually a pass back to the keeper. It's also a shot on target. It's a silly statistic.
It is indeed, is right, Rob. I'm glad to see you getting stuck into the analytics. The fucking had it all the way too long. Excellent stuff. Common sense analytics coming next season on the Anfield Wrap. Rob Gutmann looks straight down the barrel of the camera and tells you what's common sense and what isn't.
But if you think about it, shots on target has existed as it's one of the first stats outside. When the stat, it probably goes back 25 years. Shots on target. Sky got into it, didn't they?
Yeah, everyone gets into shots on SOT. Okay, Beth, let's talk about the match and our performances. McAllister's just, I think he is our man of the match by a distance. He's constantly present. He shifts the tempo. I loved his performance.
Yeah, I mean, I just love him. Like, he is. If it weren't for Virgil van Dijk, I would say he's probably Liverpool's player of the season, in terms of when you think about he comes into this side to a midfield that is completely new and transforming into something else, and he has to play a role that's slightly unfamiliar to him and he's maybe not most comfortable in, and he grows to be able to do a real good job there, and now he can play in a bit more of an advanced position with Endo behind him. But you want, especially when you've got sort of an injury-ravaged side, you want your big players to step up, and there's no one bigger than a World Cup winner, is there? And I think in that was the difference. He made the difference. Obviously, at Nunes, it was a great header, and I also really liked in that goal. I actually think Van Dijk not pushes, but sort of nudges one of Forest's defenders.
Oh, don't tell them that.
No, Forest defenders slightly off, like not offside, but to keep Nunes onside.
Yeah, he sort of moves in, doesn't he?
Sort of moves in, which again shows you that it wasn't just sort of a fluke, hopeful ball in. I think a few of the players knew what was coming there. But yeah, McAllister was just absolutely excellent, and his quality is immense. And I think especially against Manchester City next weekend, that will be a real sort of litmus test for how good he is, because City for so long in this Jurgen Klopp era, that their midfield and the technical element of their midfield has outclassed Liverpool's, and it's been Liverpool's sort of workman-like style that has allowed Liverpool to get the better of City on a couple of occasions. But I think it'll be a very different kind of midfield battle next week, and McAllister will play a big part in that.
He will play a big part in that, Mike. He plays a big part in this. You've already mentioned the quality for the goal. For me, what I enjoyed was I felt he changed the tempo 3 or 4 occasions. I think he just finds a way to move Liverpool through the gears in the course of the match. I think he finds that a little bit more straightforward from the point at which Endo comes on, although I do think Gomez had another really good 20 minutes playing holding midfield just after half-time. I think that McAllister gets himself increasingly involved, and he's part of why Liverpool do turn the screw. It's
a sign of a man who's grown in stature, really, in the dressing room, but like just in on his own, really, he's fully come in and played different positions, and then he settled into, like everyone kept saying for the first half of the season, he's not a number 6, but when he starts playing further forward, and then he does so well settling into a number 6, everyone goes, we missed McAllister in the 6 there, when Enzo has that little bit of an injury, and I think he wins the most tackles in 3 or 4 games back to back and puts us back on the front foot, and then he's stepping forwards, and as you say there, like, just this is my ball, we're going to play my way now. I'm going to put Elliott down the side, Bradley down the side, switch the play back over to Robertson or Tsimikas, whoever's on. I'll play a short ball if needed. I'll look in behind for when Nunes comes on and we're trying to stretch the play. He's he's just grown, and it's a whole thing of the team and the confidence and the belief. It's easy to always go back to that, but when it's so obvious and staring you in the face, you've just got to acknowledge it and go, yeah, well, that is it. He's been entrusted by the manager in several roles now, and Beth mentioned he's a World Cup winner. You don't do that, and he doesn't start, by the way, the first game for Argentina in that World Cup. He then comes on and plays well, and their manager goes, oh, I need him, because Messi looks to him, the manager looks to him, all the best players in the team that he's played for start looking to him. He played well for Brighton, and he became their best player. He's at Liverpool now, a massive part of this midfield rebuild. And you mentioned there when Enzo comes on, he goes, right, I've got my safety blanket behind me now. I'm not doing 4 or 5 jobs. I know he'll win balls back and give me them, and I can pick the tempo up and start looking elusive to the rest of their midfield. And I think I can't wait next week to see him and play against Rodri, because I really rate Rodri. I think he's a fantastic player. You don't really see him really get dominated all that much, and McAllister's not a big imposing man, but he's a very clever one who knows what type of ball to play, when to play it, to be the most dangerous.
Sorry, Neil. You looking at me?
Yes. I just thought you might want to talk about McAllister, but if you don't, I'll talk about the centre-halves. Mike's absolutely right. He is growing and growing into the season and into his role in this Liverpool team. I just like seeing it feels like a break from, again, I said earlier, from the type of midfielder we've had, to have someone so technically proficient in such a dense and competitive part of the pitch. Number of times you see him surrounded by bodies, and he's got the quickness of mind and skill to just drop half a shoulder and play a neat little ball into feet, and he gets us out. He gets us out of the thicket in midfield so often and so effortlessly at times. But it's in the hurly-burly of that part of the pitch, it's hard to sort of take time out even to admire it. It's not like it's not like a shabby Alonso 40-yard crossfield pass or a Van Dijk where you can stop and applaud it. He's got us out of it. He's got us out of the thicket. It's incredible stuff.
He used to do it a lot for Man City as well.
Yeah.
The centre-halves, Rob.
Yeah.
It's another great showing from the pair of them. They are now Liverpool's back to being nailed on as Liverpool's first choice centre-backs. I think this was always the plan in terms of managing Konaté through the season. He may not start. In fact, both of them may not start the game in Prague. But they are Liverpool's first choice too. They'll be the two that play against Manchester City. They'll be the two that play in every single big game between now and the end of the campaign.
Yeah, I think keeping them together for when they're absolutely needed is going to be a challenge for the manager, and I think him and his staff have done a brilliant job of doing that so far this season. Konaté's been eased in, so we're now getting some momentum out of it, but they're still not losing sight of the fact that you have to protect Konaté. He can't play 3 games in a week, and I think this next week's going to be very, very interesting and telling. Not this week, the week after, and beyond the international break.
I think there might be a lot of 45s as we got to see games.
When we get onto the Prague chat, I think that's got it written all over it, sharing the job. I think there's a number of them you can talk about on that one. But no, they are. I mean, Van Dijk is, the stepping up and the return to form level. We're saying it game after game after game. It's almost like a dream sequence of form, really, and you don't want it to end. I was talking to my son Danny on the way back from the match, driving back from Nottingham yesterday, and we were saying, well, we were talking about transfers as we often do. We go, well, what are our summer needs? We go, well, there's the long-term replacement for Van Dijk. And I went, when is the long-term for Van Dijk? Because he's now back to the peak of Van Dijk. I don't think it's like when Gerrard discovered a sort of peak in 13-14 and then he immediately fell off that cliff the season after. I don't think Van Dijk's going to suddenly go very, very quickly backwards. I think there's Thiago Silva vibes all over the show, and I think at his best he was better than Thiago. He is better than Thiago Silva has ever been, I think, and Thiago Silva's a hell of a player. So I don't know whether we can look upon an elite version of Van Dijk for a good 3 more years minimum and still be handy around the squad for 5 more years. So who knows?
Who knows indeed. The excellence of Virgil. Beth, the Joe Gomez Road show that took place at Nottingham Forest on Saturday, for me it's epitomised by the fact that he went to the corner at the very end of the game playing right back when there was really nothing else on. He does brilliantly. Again, I think he takes a bit of time to work out holding midfield. Again, I do think he does work it out before he gets moved to left back. Then he maybe takes a good few minutes to work out left back, but then he works that out and then he ends up back at right back. It's brilliant from him.
It is, and I think it's one of those things that, if you're not a Premier League footballer, you watch a game and he makes the odd error in midfield or at left back and you sort of go, give him the ball away, and then you think how incredibly talented he must be to be able to play across the entire back line and also play and hold in midfield, and not just play but do it, with a level of competence that is quite remarkable, really. And I don't know where Liverpool would be without Joe Gomez this season when you consider the amount of minutes that he's had, the amount of positions he's had to play in, his versatility. And I'm someone who coming into this season was sort of thinking, I don't always feel confident when his name's on the team sheet, particularly if he's playing at centre half. I think he's maybe got a mistake in him. He's obviously a little bit injury prone. Do Liverpool maybe look to move him on next summer? And now you look at him and you're thinking, you keep him at the club for as long as he's willing to stay, because he's some player. And again, was did a really solid job in that holding midfield role on Saturday.
Indeed. Last little couple I just want to touch on quite quick. I thought Elliott was so willing again, even though it doesn't quite run for him as he'd like. I think Clark does okay in a sticky game that has got more Ryan Yates in, and Ryan Yates is a product of the Nottingham Forest Football Club Academy. Maybe if they'd used more of them, they wouldn't now be breaching PSR regulations. But Ryan Yates, I thought, plays ever so well. He's very, very prominent in there. I think Clark does well enough over the course of the time he's on the pitch. To me, he looked like part of the first team squad who's just whacking in a 7 out of 10. Not like a kid, or 6 out of 10 even maybe, but that's absolutely fine. Not like, for instance, a young player who's finding it hard to find his feet. That makes sense.
There's definitely times gone by where if you drop a kid in, just by the way, in a massive game for your season, you'd be terrified. I wasn't going into the game.
No, not at all.
Because I was just like, I've seen him literally in stressful positions for Liverpool, like with the pressures on, winning trophies, and he's just he's flipped back heels and that round Wembley, knocking it round with his mates. And so Nottingham Forest away, yeah, it's tough, yeah, it's a battle, yeah, you're going to need to be all them things about having your wits about you, and he did, and he nearly kills one in, to be honest as well. It's a good effort really for a time he's involved in the best chance you said before, the one where he doesn't quite bring it down properly enough, but he gets it to Diaz, and then it's blocked over the bar by Murillo. He's the epitome really, and Dan's comes on again, and it is very lively, almost like so lively they want him sent off for going into for a ball that he's entitled to go in for. I said on the Friday show, I don't care who's on the pitch. I've said that a couple of times now over shows, so I'm boring people, but I don't care, because the manager trusts him, so I trust him, and every one of them players on the pitch trust him. So Bobby Clark,
and we're a big
Jayden Dans, you know what I mean? It's they're showing us that they're worthy of it, because they're working hard enough to do so.
Yeah, we're a big gang, Liverpool at the minute. More on them in a second or two, thinking about what's happening against Prague. One of the ways in which they're a big gang is we've got the physio front and their end, which is good to see from our point of view. A couple more chats about that, not least in the context of what happens in Prague around the younger players that is to come. But last week, John Gibbons was joined in our studio by Alfie Fitzsimmons, founder of Alfie's Squad. Alfie's Squad was set up to support children bereaved by suicide, rebuild their lives with a positive, supportive community of understanding friends after Alfie himself lost his father. Now, we often do this, and none of this stuff is a test. You haven't got to listen to or watch, if you are on YouTube, all of this. So some of this discussion obviously involves death by suicide, so be mindful of that before deciding whether or not you want to do so. It's about 12 minutes 15 seconds long. For the avoidance of any doubt, go to 12 minutes 30, because the worst thing that you'll miss is me talking about our tour dates.
And it is John Gibbons from the Anfield Wrap. I'm joined here in the studio by Alfie Fitzsimmons to talk to us about Alfie's Squad. Alfie, thanks so much for coming in to see us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So, it's been quite the journey with Alfie's Squad. It's been a number of years now in the making, but before we talk about some really exciting news for the charity and for the organisation, if you don't mind, just let us know a little bit more about Alfie's Squad and why you started it.
So when I was 8 years old, I lost my dad to suicide, and I felt very isolated and very alone, and I lost quite a lot of my self-worth, because it's not a unique experience, but it's one of them where it's like, it's so stigmatised and people don't tend to talk about it. So when I was 8, I really wanted someone who I could relate to. And I kept on looking for counsellors and different therapists that I could relate to, but it's really hard to find because not many tend to go into the profession, which I can't blame them for. And so I wanted a support group where there's no other kids that I could relate to at that point, because, like I said, I just felt so isolated and so alone. And now we're at a point where I've set up, we've already got one, which is on a Thursday. And like you said, exciting news, we're setting up another with LFC Foundation.
Yeah, it's incredible what you've done, but you know, for you, was it just a case of, well, this doesn't exist and I could do with it, so there probably is more people like me who are out there who could benefit from the service, I guess?
Yeah, I didn't realise how much of an impact it would have, but it's had a massive one already. We have 18 kids on our books, which is really, really impressive, seeing as we've only been set up as like an actual thing since August of last year. That was when the first session was. We've been fundraising for years before, but it's had such a big impact and it's helped me a lot. I didn't think that I needed help when I first set it all up. I said to my mum, I think I'll only go to a few of the first sessions because I don't think I need it. But it's made me realise how much I appreciate it, and it's given me friendships that I didn't think I'd be able to have. And a lot of them in the group now are some of my closest friends and people I can trust so much. For you and the other people in the group, you know, how big is it that you've got those people who you're able to speak to who understand what you've gone through? Because for other people it is just hard, isn't it, to know what to say or to say the right words, but you have got that, like, an awful thing in common, but it is there for you. Yeah, it's massive for everyone because it's very comforting. Like, I don't talk about my dad much anymore. It's been 6 years, nearly 7, so I've not really got all that much to say anymore. But there's a few of the kids in there who've been, I think the second most recent is 3, so it's still very fresh for them. So people, like, everyone's starting to open up more about it, which is really nice to see, because loads of them, like, wouldn't even mention their parents or, you know, whoever they've lost. And it's really nice to see that they're starting to talk and starting to open up and even asking for counselling when they need it. So it's had great impact on everyone involved. Everton and the community have supported you and Alfie's squad and things you've done sort of from the start. You are a big blue. I've worn blue to try and make it feel a bit more comfortable coming into here today. But, you know, how big was that for you? Obviously as an Evertonian, but also, you know, for a big organisation like Everton to you know, notice what you were doing, to reach out to you and say, listen, we want to support you. It must have been huge. Yeah, it was really big for me because when I was young, I wanted to open up with Everton because it was my football team. It was the team that I loved, and still do sometimes. And so that was really nice for me. And then we're still working quite closely with them, but obviously we're going on our own way because we want to sort of become our own thing and help as many people in our way as possible. But Everton are always there for us, and they've been great with us, and we're excited, like, for what else we can achieve with different clubs, different sports clubs, not just football, but whatever. And I know some of the players have spoke, you know, so highly of you, and when you see that, you've received national awards and things like that, which must be great because, you know, it gets more attention on the organisation. But, you know, when you're hearing people like Michael Keane, Theo Walcott talking about what an inspiration you are, it must be a crazy feeling. Yeah, it was mad. Like, with Michael and Theo, they're both really nice people, and no, Michael at least is very proud of my accomplishments, which is really, really nice to see. And I'm really, really grateful for how they've helped and how they've managed to push us forward, because it is greatly appreciated. But like you say, you want to take it sort of nationwide, if you like, and maybe even beyond. And an organisation like Liverpool and the LFC Foundation can sort of help with that. So how did it come about that you guys are working with the LFC Foundation now? So we're opening up a second group with using LFC Foundation's facilities now, which is really nice to see. And again, greatly appreciated from us to them. So it's really nice to see that, because it's given us a lot more reach, because Liverpool's a massive club, yeah, as much as I hate to say it, with a massive reach in the local area. So having, like, a place where we can expand, because we don't want to end up full, and it's looking like we're going to need to expand again, not soon, but, like, hopefully. I'm hoping we need to expand again, as much as it might be to my mum's dismay. But yeah, LFC Foundation have been great so far, and looking forward to everything with them. Yeah, and it's a kind of a double-edged sword, really, isn't it? Because, you know, you don't want to think about all these other children who are sort of out there, and all these young people who are out there who do need support. But the fact is, it is likely that is going to be the case. We know, we've all seen the statistics on suicide and how many people, you know, do take their own life, and so it is likely that there's going to be sort of children involved. And so I guess you know that the service is important, and so finding, you know, these young people and offering them this peer support, you know, it is important to do it. So, yeah, like you said, there's massive statistics about it. There's 9,000 children affected a year. So, since I lost my dad, that's not 54,000,
Wow.
I think, and which is just a mad number to think. And then, obviously, loads before me, and unfortunately, it's going to be a lot to come. So, being able to help as many people as we possibly can is one of our main priorities. And it's the system I know works because I've seen it firsthand. It's helping everyone that comes to us and is getting support from us, which I love to see. But
yeah,
it's a shame that it's going to be needed. But as long as everyone's getting the help they need, then that's all that really matters at this point.
So people might be watching this who might be affected by the things that we're talking about, and this idea of a second group or maybe more in the future. I know you're across social media and things like that. If people want to learn more about what you do and hopefully support you guys as well, or just to support in terms of following on social and things like that, I know that would be a massive help to you guys. And so where can people find you?
So we're on Instagram and Twitter with Dan's Alfie Squad. Twitter's mainly just me ranting about Everton, but it's a bit of the charity stuff gets mentioned. Instagram is probably where it gets mentioned the most, and then we've got our own website where you can find the referral form if anyone wants to refer someone to come to the group. So it's open from ages 6 to 17, but it's flexible. And we've got one group on a Thursday from 5:30 till 7:30 at the People's Place next to Gutmann Park. And we're opening up in Northwood Community Centre in Kirby from 6:30 till 8:30. Yeah. So
is
you can find
with the
that's the LFC Foundation one. And then we're doing a shark dive in April with me and I think 12 or 13 of the other children in the group. I don't know why they want to do it, but I've been forced into it. So donations are there. I think you can access it through the website, but if not, I think there's a GoFundMe for it. And then we've just got donation links scattered about somewhere.
But people can find it.
Yeah.
Tell us more about the shark thing then. Where are you doing it?
We're doing it in the Bay Girls Centre in Birmingham. So we're travelling about 2 hours just to do swim with sharks. I'm looking forward to it, but I'm also not. Don't really fancy getting eaten, but yeah, it should be good. I'm looking forward to it.
Because donations do help you help any organisation, don't you? But for you guys doing what you want to be doing and looking to grow and maybe sort of more places and things like that. But money does help. That's a fact.
Yeah, money's massive for it, but I'm not here to beg for donations. It's just more awareness, but always there for people that want to. And
apparently Chris Kirkland's going to be getting involved as well.
Chris Kirkland's doing the shark dive with us. He's done an abseil down Anfield, and he's doing a fire walking school next week, or Friday, the coming Friday when this comes out, I think.
Yeah.
So he's been great. He's such a nice person, and he's been working really, really close with us. And hopefully he gets to join in more stuff and put himself at risk.
He's not playing anymore. It doesn't matter. He's just doing a bit of coaching now on five-a-side, so I'm sure it's fine. When you wrote that letter and you reached out for help and you wrote a sort of open letter to Everton, I know you won't put it online, can you have believed the sort of what would have happened sort of off the back of it, really? Because I think I'm right to say that at that point you weren't even sure exactly what you wanted to do. Alfie Squad wasn't necessarily a concept. You just knew that you wanted to help people. You knew you wanted to support other people, and from there, Alfie Squad's been born. As I said, as nationwide awards and things like that. You've been on national radio, national TV, I think this week as well, and sort of stuff like that. And like I mentioned before, all the footballers who are supporting you, it must be. As I say, it's quite a huge thing. I bet you never imagined when you wrote that what would happen.
I couldn't have imagined, it's blown up massively, well more than I thought it would. Initially I wanted to help the homeless, but it's grown into this, which resonates a lot more with me. But when I wrote the letter, I just wanted to help people who are in a worse situation than me. And I'm happy that we're at the point we're at now. Like you said, I'm on BBC Breakfast Tuesday.
It's tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow. Because this coming out Monday, so tomorrow, and then we've got hopefully loads of other stuff coming out because that will lead to more press, and I'm really, really looking forward to it all. This should be a good year.
So, I mean, I guess what does the future hold? Because we've got this group in Liverpool, but have you thought about it? You mentioned that your mum won't necessarily want you to sort of blow it all up, but have you thought about over the next couple of years? Because you still are so young, you know, but I guess it is, you will have in your head, I'm sure, you know, thoughts about bigger and better things you can do.
Yeah, I've got massive hopes for it. I want to go as far as we can. I want to open up with as many sports clubs at first, because it's got the biggest reach in local communities.
Yeah.
So whether it be football, rugby, cricket, whatever. I know there's a few places in the northeast we want to go because they've got such a high suicide rate, and then just we want to spread as much as we can. Like, there's loads of children that need the help, and we want to be there to help them.
Yeah. If we can help you in any way, just give us a shout in the future. But what you have done is incredible. I'm sure everyone who's watching will agree with that as well. And shout out to LSE Foundation as well for supporting you in the next step. And hopefully lots of other football clubs nationwide and maybe beyond will work with you guys as well. But thanks so much for coming in and sharing your story.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Welcome back. Neil Atkinson with the Anfield Wrap, joined by Beth, Rob and Mike. Be about another 10 or 15 minutes or so. The tour dates then. We are going to be at Mountford Hall on the Saturday night before the last game of the season against Wolverhampton Wanderers. God knows what we're going to be talking about. Could be about anything. Could just simply be a tribute to Jurgen. Could be looking ahead to a Europa League final. Could be looking ahead to an FA Cup final. Could be looking ahead to a game where if Liverpool win, they become champions. That is your next marker for what you want at Anfield, is Liverpool holding it in their hands for once on the 19th of May. But we will see. However, we will be at Mountford Hall no matter what on that Saturday night, so do join us if you are in town. Also, New York has sold out. I think I just heard Toronto has sold out and Washington has sold out of our tour. Andy is nodding. He knows the score. That means Wilmington, Detroit and Boston tickets all still are available for those ones if you do want to come and see us when we are in North America in the March international break. That is after Liverpool go to Old Trafford to play the gutless Manchester United Football Club at their turf, and see if any of them have learned how to play footy between now and then. Also, tonight, Arsenal play Sheffield United. They should win. It's by a million miles, Beth, Arsenal's most straightforward remaining away game. They've got all the others that I think they've got are against the current top 10, with the exception of Chelsea, depending on where Chelsea are. They played Chelsea away, so I think it is their last straightforward away game. That was ours, Nottingham Forest, to be honest with you, unless you want to count Fulham as that, but Fulham do look dangerous at the minute, so it's worth, again, having the humility as to how hard this is. Arsenal should win tonight. If I offer you Sunday evening that Liverpool have 64 points, Arsenal have 64 points, and Manchester City have 63 points, would you take it?
Arsenal would be top on goal difference.
Yeah. I think that Liverpool needs to win that game next week. They don't need to win. They don't need to win. That's a stupid statement. They can lose the game and still go on and win the league title. But I just think when you look at Liverpool's record against the fellow sort of Big Six this season, they've only managed to beat Chelsea out of that crop of teams. Now, of course, they've got to go away to Manchester United. They've got Tottenham at home. City's probably City definitely is the most difficult game they've got out of that crop of fixtures. But I just think if Liverpool don't win the league, they will look back at the fact they've not managed to take enough points off those other Big Six teams. And I think this is a huge, huge opportunity for them. If nothing else, just to sow that seed of doubt in Manchester City's mind, because they looked they looked formidable yesterday. They looked, and especially in the way that they managed to come back, and it was the local lad who scored, who put them ahead. And I just think it would not completely derail their season, but I think it would throw a bit of a spanner in the works for them. I think for Liverpool, it will be a huge confidence boost, and I think then going into those tricky away games at Old Trafford, against Aston Villa, against Fulham, you open the door for you to be able to slip up.
That said, so when we've gone the Etihad a couple of times, and so I'm thinking about the 2-2 and 21-22. When City are the better side, we get back to 2-2. We maybe should do a bit more with it when it goes to 2-2, but they get out and they remain a point ahead. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that in real time, and I don't think they came away that day thinking, oh God, we needed to have laid the marker. Some of them might have thought that, but in the end, the way it plays out is we stayed a point ahead.
Yeah, I think, I'm speaking as, the sort of the ghosts of title races past are sort of on my shoulder, and I'm thinking we've missed out by a point twice. How good would it be to really lay down a marker to them? But ultimately, it goes back to sort of the, in the Brendan Rodgers era, the infamous Chelsea game. Liverpool didn't really need to win that game, and they sort of went all out to win it and ended up losing 2-0. So obviously a draw isn't the worst result at all. I think it's probably the kind of result that if it's a draw on Sunday night, we'd probably start thinking, we've missed a real opportunity there. But in the long run might not be the worst point. But it would be great to beat them.
Mike, I'm going to go to Rob last. I really want to know what his answer is. Rob, Mike, are you taking 64, 63?
I think because City play Arsenal a week later, I would. Because there's a way where...
next week, is it?
It's not that, no, it's after the international break. It's straight after the international break, yeah.
Well, that sounds... As long as we win our games from that point onwards, I'd still believe, because we've sort of got away from... That's what's losing against City, is it?
No, that's
the point. Yeah, so they have, it's a point we've gotten to, they haven't. And even though, look, I fancy us. I really do fancy us. I said a while ago now, I think City can get at City more so than maybe ever in the past, and other teams are doing so and making it look hard. And even though United were crap, there was a way, like they
were crap, weren't they, Mike?
They were crap, but in the first half they just boxed City, and I was like, City missed one real shocker, the Haaland one, which is mad. But other than that, I'm thinking, I reckon our defence is better than United's. I reckon our midfield's better than United's, and our forwards better than United's.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm fine with this. City aren't scaring me here. I'm all right with us playing them. So, but if you're offering me the points as you are, 64, 63, I think I would, because it's we're not behind, and they've got bigger games and harder march than us.
I'm taking the draw. I'm taking the draw. However, there is another voice in my head that says, I remember those great Arsenal teams that Wenger had, and there's a couple of seasons, I don't know if I'm conflating memories or what have you, but they go to Old Trafford, I think, and there's a couple of seasons where they win 1-0 at Old Trafford. Can't remember who scored.
The Wiltord one, wasn't it?
Sorry?
Was it Wiltord, Sivan Wiltord?
Yeah, there's one of them, and I think there's another one similarly at sort of this phase of the season, and it felt like the sort of team, the sort of result, the sort of performance that if you want to win the league, at some point, you can't just go, we did well, we've beaten Brentford, look, and now we've beaten Forest.
Yeah.
At some point, you've got to do it. And I felt that in our closest seasons against City, where we haven't prevailed, I've had that thought too, and we haven't won. Like the 2-2, where we actually did well to get out with the draw, because we they overran us at times in that game. But going into the game, I thought, go and do what that Arsenal team did. Go, be bold, go and win.
Even though the Villa thing in 1920 was in Villa City, it was in November. This feels like it's, if you do go and get the win here, that feels like that, and it's March.
Yeah, I think if we do win it, it would be a feeling similar to, and this was much closer to the end, in 13-14, without damning it, when we went and did City 3-2 at Anfield in that game, and the league was ours to lose after then, and we went and did that, but. I would, and there's no. It wouldn't be our league if we won it. But boy, I think the bookies might give us odds on for the first time. I think it would really be truly on. Having said that, City look very, very good, and if they beat us, we're going to feel very, very deflated. 2 points adrift of them on form. I don't know, and we're going to be confused as to whether we want Arsenal. We're going to want Arsenal to win that game, and it's going to be all kinds of. We won't get our heads right for another few weeks until we get our bits done and the international breaks in the way. So, all things being equal, for my mental health, the draw I'm taking now.
Okay. Who's in the chair? Pick me a team for Prague, Beth. I want 16 players. I think it's a 16-player plan. I think that rest everyone, which is what some people will say. I think will be proven wrong, and I also think it's just not what the manager will want, because I think rhythm and training time. So Bosley, I think, looked a bag of rags, frankly, when he came on against Forest. Yeah, I thought he really struggled to find the pace of it. Maybe I'm wrong. You were in the ground, but I thought he just didn't look like he settled into the game at all, Beth. So I'm of the view there is a rhythm question for a few of these as well. I don't think it's as simple as everyone just is wrapped up in cotton wool, because I think Liverpool, they can't train. If we're all honest about it, they've got to get back from Prague. They can't train between Prague and City. There's times in the season where training's playing and playing's training. This, to me, strikes me that this game against Prague is one of those times. So what would you do?
Yeah, I think it definitely, as we said earlier, I think it's going to be a lot of 45s. I think Virgil gets 45. I think Canate probably gets 45. Quansah probably maybe plays the whole thing. But yeah, I think as much as I think it's easy to take this sort of game lightly because it's in the Europa League and Liverpool should comfortably beat them. But ultimately, it's a European away, and for them, it's their biggest game of the season.
By some distance.
By some distance, the biggest game of many seasons. They will be properly up for it. And Liverpool don't want to get to a point where, even if they lose that game 1-0, that's not the worst result. But you don't want to be at a point where they've got a couple of goal advantage coming to Anfield. You don't want that. You want it to be, Liverpool to be in a position where they come to Anfield and you can get the job done there. So I think, I don't know what approach he will take, but I do imagine it will be playing more sort of recognised first team players than maybe we think. I think, like you say, Szoboszlai needs minutes, and I think because there've been so many injuries and it feels like there's been sort of 2 or 3 injuries every game these last few weeks, there is that temptation to just say save them all for City, put them all in cotton wool. But like you say, that really works. And Liverpool under Jurgen Klopp, I always feel, are better when they play in every 3-4 days because they have that rhythm and that momentum. So I do think it will be a lot of first team players playing. And I think it will just be a lot of rotation in the first and second half.
It's a tough one for the manager. He sort of hinted at something, I think, by talking about the gap between the Forest and the Prague games. And that's worth bearing in mind. I know you're saying about not time for training, but it's because it's a Saturday, Thursday.
Yeah, he's got a bit of time.
I always do the psychological game with myself where I go, Saturday, Thursday is a bit like if you've got the Monday night game and then you've got a Saturday game. It feels like you've got a full week. It's as good as a full week, even though it's 5 days. So I think to an extent he might feel a little bit more. Well, let's put it. There's people who I think might not start City but have played too many minutes. A Gakpo here, a Gomez there, and Elliott possibly. So those 3 might not start City, but they've also been run into the ground. Having said that, I think the 5-day gap might give him the boldness to go. No, they can go again, and they will get their rest or be bench players against City. I think people will be going, I think Nunes will start, I think Szoboszlai will start, I think Salah will start. There'll be a lot of that chat going into the game, but we can see the manager's approach, and I think the medical advice he's getting is it's a surfeit of caution at every turn. So I don't see a chance that Szoboszlai starts. Not
really?
No, he's played very little football, apart from that comeback.
That's part of why I'd start him.
Well, yeah, no, I know. I think he'll want to give minutes to these lads. I think he's got a slight problem here. I was trying to do some of the calcs on this one. There's obviously 5 substitutes. Now, there's all kinds of. I'd give him 45 swaps. For example, you could go Konate and Virgil could share that position over the game. You could make a case for Bradley and Gomez sharing the position. And I think you almost have to do that because you can't play Gomez into injury. You can't play Bradley the whole game. You can't play Van Dijk or Konate the whole game. So you've got 2 of your subs. Put them to one side before you even start. You need to hold 1 back for an injury, which you don't foresee in the last 10 minutes. That's 3 of your subs gone. Now, at some point, I think you've got Salah should be available. Nunes, Szoboszlai available. Do you introduce them? You almost do have to start one. It's quite complex the more you think about it.
I'm going to picture something.
Okay, I'll give you my team, you give me yours. You show me yours.
Okay, I'll show you, like countdown.
Yes.
I've got Kelleher in goal.
Yes.
Now let me do all of it, including the subs, before you jump in.
I will.
Bradley at right back.
Starting, yeah.
Quansah.
Yeah.
Either of Konate and Van Dijk. Shimicast left back. Gomez holding midfield. Szoboszlai and Bobby Clark. Harvey Elliott, Cody Gakpo and Lewis Diaz.
Let me tell you that. Gomez in midfield again.
Gomez holding mid again.
And who else did you have?
Szoboszlai and Bobby Clark.
Okay.
And then I've got Harvey Elliott, Cody Gakpo and Lewis Diaz. Then I've got on 45, you do Diaz for Nunez and you do Konate for Van Dijk. And on 60, you do Szoboszlai for Salah, pull Elliott back into midfield, and you do Endo for Conor Bradley. So Endo comes on, plays holding mid, Gomez does right back, and then you've got 1 more sub. So you've flipped the centre halves 45. Bradley's only done 60 in there. Szoboszlai's done 60, so he gets 60 just to get his rhythm going. Diaz and Nunez share the game, and Endo gets a bit of time because I think he could do with it prior to the game against City. You rest McAllister completely, pull him completely out of the equation in there. You rest Robertson, pull him completely out of the equation in there as well. And then you've got 1 more sub to do what you'd want to do with it. How are you feeling about that?
Do you know what? I wrote my team on Saturday night after the game, and I don't know if I'm be a bit bolder now because I'll work backwards. I've gone with Dans and Nunes starting up front. I think which is a bit of your strongest choice and your least experienced choice. Almost in the front two. Maybe it was just because I quite liked their little cameo of 10 mins together. I thought as an old-fashioned pairing, they were knocking the crap out of that Forest defence. And I sort of had Gakpo with them, give him one last hurrah. Whether you'd play him sort of behind them as a 10 or a false 9, whether you'd play him off one side, I don't know. My centre mids, I thought, again, this is holding it all back for City. I think you could start Endo. He got the midweek off the other week, didn't he? When he had his injury, I think you could have McAllister as an option off the bench to take over from him. I wouldn't have gone I didn't have Gomez in centre mid again. Soboslai.
You're such a Gomez and centre mid skeptic, aren't you?
Well, I'm not against it.
I think you are against it.
He's played a lot.
My theory is you are against it.
It's got to be your third choice at the moment. In fact, if Curtis is fit, it's my fourth choice, and if Trent's fit, it's maybe even my fifth choice.
I'm with that whole 100%. But my point at the minute,
I don't think he's done a bad job in any. I think there's a legs. I really don't want him. If he talks about whatever anyone thinks our best 11 is at the moment, Joe Gomez is our 12th but most important player.
Yes, I agree.
Right. And I don't want him to play against City, but I don't want him to be injured. I want him definitely on the bench for City. So I'm kind of not start. Well, I would ask him to share the right back position with Bradley, I think, or share it with one of Konate or Van Dijk. So I'd gone with Bradley to start Kwanzaa, Van Dijk or Konate to start Shimikas, and I've gone Endo, McConnell. Don't know.
Clark.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. Probably Clark.
And then up front?
And then up front, I'd gone Gakpo, Downs and Nunes.
Okay.
With a view to... But how you balance getting those 5 subs on...
Right. What do you reckon, Mike?
I don't see Elliott starting again, because he did the 120 at Wembley. He's done the majority. He got the majority of Southampton, and he gets the majority
I'm absolutely certain he'll start.
Do you think so?
Yeah. Genuinely, I think I'm certain he'll start.
I'm not saying this
he does pull him off, doesn't he? Which is an interesting...
Twice, does it? The last two, he's come off.
It's not a quality thing. I think by the way,
I don't think it is a quality thing.
I just want him because of his form lately and the bits that don't get talked about in the highlights packages and stuff like that. I want him for City because I think he's probably one of our most cleverest players.
Do you want him to start City?
I think I would, yeah. Because I don't think Nunes does 90. I don't think Salah will do 90. I don't think Szoboszlai will do 90 for the next week or two. So
I think Szoboszlai starts City.
Do you think Szoboszlai starts City?
Well against Prague.
I think that will play a big factor in terms of who he goes for on Thursday, who he's going to start in that midfield on Sunday. Because I would not be completely surprised if Joe Gomez starts in midfield against City or Harvey Elliott. I have a feeling. I just think, like you say, he looks very rusty, Szoboszlai. Now he might have a fantastic performance on Thursday and he's got the minutes in the tank, or he plays 60 minutes and then comes off. But I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't start City.
There we are. Chances for youngsters. I think Tans can get off the bench again. They've earned it.
I think that's probably likely. I think mine's more wishful thinking than he will start.
Yeah, no, I'm intrigued, and there's a lot to do, a lot to be done, a lot to build up to the game against Prague, and then obviously the game against City from Friday on the Anfield Wrap. The worst thing about playing Thursday nights this week is you can't really get your teeth into the excitement pre-Manchester City until Friday, because you need to see what happens on Thursday. That is the way in which it goes, but we'll all be all right in the end. It's been an absolute pleasure. Been a terrific free show this week on the Anfield Wrap. Do subscribe if you've got the opportunity to do so. Thank you very much for Ash for looking after the pictures, Andy Heaton for looking after the sound, Rob Gutmann, Beth, Lindop and Mike Kearney for providing the sound in question and doing so absolutely manfully. And say what you want. Thank you very much indeed for Nottingham Forest Football Club for most definitely playing their part.